Hi everybody, Posture Ellie here, and in today's video I am answering a number of questions that I received from some of my Instagram followers on back pain. So if you're watching this in June 2024, July is going to be back pain month from within the Posture Squad. So if you're a member of my monthly membership platform, the Posture Squad, we are going to be following a little mini back pain program for each of our live classes throughout the month. And what I wanted to do was spend June gearing people up, answering questions, and generally trying to help people as much as possible with their back pain, which is obviously, I say obviously, maybe it's not obvious, but it is one of the most common symptoms of a movement problem that I am helping people with. And when we're talking about back pain, we are talking about all sorts of different types of symptoms of back pain. So your back is your entire spine. You can have back pain in all different parts of your spine. So you might be suffering from things like sacroiliac joint pain, sacrum pain, you might have sciatica, you might have herniations or problems with the discs in the lower back or the mid back or the upper back. You might have scoliosis, you might have a frozen shoulder which can't move because the spine is stiff. You might have neck pain, and back pain may also even count as things like headaches because your head is at the top of your spine, and therefore sort of pain in your spine can sort of have a knock-on effect to the head as well. So back pain is a very all-encompassing term. As with everything that I do, the part of your body that hurts isn't really the root cause of the problem. So if you have back pain, however that presents, that part of your back isn't really the problem. That part of your back is overly working, overly moving, it's doing too much, it's compensating because something elsewhere in your body isn't working hard enough. So there is something in your body that is dysfunctional. Maybe your hip can't rotate, maybe your glutes are weak, maybe your feet are falling in, maybe your arms have no rotation. Whatever it might be, something somewhere in your body isn't working properly. And if you have back pain, that part of your back is taking the load. It's not the root cause of the problem, it's the symptom of the problem. But I won't go on about that too much. I'm going to answer, I'm looking down because I've got the questions here in front of me on my computer. So I'm going to read out the questions and I'm going to answer them in the best way I know possible. I don't have all the answers. I'm not medically trained, but what I like to think that I am good at is helping people fix symptoms of movement issues, and movement issues cause most symptoms of musculoskeletal pain, but not always just musculoskeletal pain. You might get neurological pain or digestive issues, or have difficulty breathing. You might have difficulty kind of thinking clearly if your head's really out of whack. Your posture impacts all of you. Let's get to it. So the first question that I've had come through is someone saying, I've just had a diagnosis of thoracic outlet syndrome and I don't know where to start. Help. So thoracic outlet syndrome is a kind of like medicalized diagnosis, a fancy name to this area of your body, your kind of collarbone, the front of your chest, the front of your arm, being restricted. So if your shoulders, in fact, I'll take off my jacket. If your shoulders are really rounded forwards in this type of position, or if your head is also too far forwards, what that does is it creates compression at the front of the chest, in the collarbone area here. And what this position of the shoulders basically does is it means that your arms are going to stay really trapped. Your arms aren't able to move properly. And what it also means is that you are impinging on what we call the brachial plexus. So the brachial plexus is the kind of network of nerves that feed down into your arm. And that is like housed here, it runs here. So when your muscles are tight, and they pull your shoulders forwards and your arms roll in and you've got this kind of concave shape to your collarbone, you are going to suffer normally neurological issues down into the hands. So it might be like real coldness or numbness to the hands. You might have shoulder pain, you might have arm pain, you also might get neck pain. Thoracic outlet syndrome, in my opinion, as a non-medical person, doesn't mean anything. All it's telling you is that your arms and your shoulders are not moving properly. So to answer this person's question, I've had this diagnosis, I don't know where to start. What you need to do is figure out why your shoulders are like that. That is the answer to your question. Your shoulders might be like this because your shoulders and arms aren't very strong. They're dysfunctional, possibly. But if you were my client, if we were working together, if you were doing something like the posture revolution, for example, I would probably be looking at your pelvic position. Because if your pelvis is very rolled forwards anteriorly and you flare your rib cage up, what it means is your shoulders won't be able to sit properly. So the pelvic position with the big arch in the lower back, tilted up rib cage, will not allow the shoulder blades to sit properly against the back of the rib cage, and that can mean that the shoulders are kind of hunched forwards. But conversely, and I'm not very good at this, if you're really tucked under and posterior and rounded through your spine like this, your shoulders also can't sit properly against the back of the rib cage. So whilst it might be an arm and a shoulder problem, I would be looking more at what your pelvis is doing and how your rib cage is holding itself. Because when the pelvis is balanced and neutral, when the rib cage is in a more neutral position, the shoulders will be able to slide back and down behind you and free up the front of the arm, therefore freeing up or changing the thoracic outlet syndrome. So with all of these questions, they are hard to answer on a personalized basis because I don't know what's going on with your posture. I don't know what's going on with your movement patterns, and that might be why you sign up to something like the posture revolution so that I know what's going on. But if you've got thoracic outlet syndrome, I'd be looking at changing your pelvic position and changing your rib cage position so that the shoulders can reposition themselves. Question number 2. Someone said, I'm going to phrase this as a question because it wasn't quite phrased as a question. Breastfeeding and baby carrying support for back strength, ? So I don't quite know the full read on that, but I'm going to do my interpretation on it. So my interpretation of that question is somebody who has a baby, is breastfeeding and is noticing that they are getting increasing amounts of back pain. So obviously, if you've given birth, your body's gone through quite a lot of stuff. It's gone through a lot of trauma. It's going to be sort of weakened in some ways because I'm guessing you wouldn't have been keeping up the same exercise regime that you'd be doing if you weren't pregnant. So give yourself a little bit of kind of kindness and allowance here. But what breastfeeding does is, firstly, I'm guessing that you're going to be predominantly sat down when you're breastfeeding. So that's kind of switching off your legs and switching off your hips, tucking the pelvis under, putting a load on the lower back. So you've kind of lost that support of the lower body in holding your upper body where it should be. But by breastfeeding, you've got your arms in front of you, you've got your shoulders really rounded forwards. And so loads and loads of hours like this, you're kind of quite passively in your back. It's working, but it's not moving. And your arms and your shoulders are like really stuck out in front of you like so. So what I found previously is with my new mum clients that have done like my various different things, often one of the things that can help them the most with wherever their symptoms present, but for the sake of argument today we're talking about back pain, would be about getting their arms rotating better. So back pain caused by breastfeeding, in my opinion, is to do with this arm position being very stuck like this for long periods of time. And if we can restore the rotation of the upper arm, what it does is it repositions the shoulders behind us and it changes our ribcage position, our spinal position, and our pelvic position. So that will be the end of my answer to that question. But this same person also asked me another question, which is related, because all of the problems that you have in your body are always related. Your foot pain is not separate from your shoulder pain, is not separate from your neck pain, is not separate from your hand pain. Your entire body is connected. So you've got to see that bigger picture of muscular connections and fascial connections, and how there's no part of your body that's like floating separately from the rest of it. So what you might perceive to be as your shoulder pain, as I say it like that, you might think of your shoulder pain as being separate to your back pain, but they're not, they're absolutely connected. So this same person has spoken about breastfeeding and carrying a baby, and presumably they have back pain. But they've also asked, or they've said, I seem to spend a lot of my day on my feet as a teacher, and the best way to support that. So I'm guessing, but I am kind of guessing and assuming here, that being on their feet also causes them back pain. So when people ask me questions, I'm having to sometimes they're saying statements, but I'm having to kind of read into what I think they're saying here. I'm assuming that this person has problems being on their feet all day as a teacher, and that they get back pain standing up for long periods of time. So not only are they getting back pain breastfeeding, but they're probably getting back pain when they're standing up for long periods of time. Number one, humans are designed to be standing or moving on their feet for long periods of time. If you struggle spending lengths of time or any amount of time in a standing position, you have got a lot of serious work to do. Because if you're not standing well, if you're not walking well, if you're not running well, or whatever it might be, you're not moving like a human. Because one of the things that differentiates humans from other animals is our ability to walk on two legs. Like, that's what has allowed the human race to evolve in the way that we have. So we've got to take this very seriously if we're struggling to spend lots of time on our feet. Few things that jump to mind for me here. Number one, what shoes are you wearing? If you are wearing what society deems to be normal shoes, that is basically every single normal shoe is actually heeled. It might not be what you consider to be a high heel or a stiletto, but if you look at a normal pair of shoes, they are probably going to be higher at the back than they are at the front. And what that does is it keeps your foot angled downwards all of the time. And your foot or your feet are not designed to be angled downwards all of the time. That angle downwards of the foot pitches your entire body forwards at a diagonal. And because your body is always trying to orientate your head, because your head is it's like the captain of the ship, right? Your head will pull backwards, or at least your shoulders will pull backwards. And what does that do? It puts a great deal of load, too much load in the lower back. So if someone has back problems from being on their feet a lot, where my mind goes is, what shoes are they wearing? Are they wearing shoes that are permanently and perpetually pitching them forwards? Because that's an easy recipe for lower back pain. And if being on your feet a lot causes you back pain, what it tells you in a general sense is that you need to strengthen, your entire posture, your entire body, but probably your feet, your hips, your legs, and your pelvis need to get stronger and more balanced so that they can support the spine and the upper body. But for this person specifically, because they've also mentioned about the breastfeeding, I have a suspicion that if the breastfeeding is indeed caused by their upper body position being rounded forwards, if the breastfeeding pain is caused by this, which I think it could be, there may also be a connection with that person's shoulder position and their back pain. So it could be that by improving their shoulder position and pulling that head and shoulder girdle backwards, they notice that the problems that they have in their back are also changing. This same person also said, this is fine by the way, I encourage lots of questions from people. They've mentioned that they have reoccurring lower disc problems and that they have very tense shoulders and upper back too. Everything's connected. So you've asked 4 different questions, which is fine, but those 4 issues are all connected. So your tense upper back and shoulders, your disc problems, your difficulty spending long periods of time on your feet, and the problems that you have breastfeeding are indicative of a body with a number of movement problems. And it would just be impossible to answer that on a personalized basis because I don't know anything about your body. But the remedy will be whole body posture approach. So by improving the function of as many different muscles in your body as you possibly can, you will find that all of those symptoms start to change because you're moving more like a human, you're moving with more function, you're moving with more alignment, you're moving with more balance. All of those things will change. So my kind of gut instinct for this person, but it is impossible to say, is let's see what happens when you learn to rotate your arms more. There are plenty of arm rotation routines within the posture squad. And let's see what happens when you change your feet, both your footwear, your shoes, but also teaching your feet to wake up better and teaching your ankles to support the rest of you more. I suspect those two things might help you the most. Somebody else, we're on our final two questions here. Somebody else has said, is abdominal weakness linked to back pain? And the answer is yes, because abdominal weakness is dysfunction, and dysfunction anywhere in your body, so be it, like I mentioned at the beginning, weak hips, weak glutes, weak biceps, weak lats muscles, weak hamstrings, weak calves. Dysfunction anywhere in your body can cause you pain elsewhere, so can cause you compensation. So the example that this person is saying, the abdominal weakness is a dysfunction. The abdominals are not doing their job properly of supporting and moving the rib cage. And back pain may well be a compensation for a lack of abdominal strength. But what I would say is that I think the abdominals get far too much of a focus in other types of fitness. So I help people who actually are habitually gripping their abdominals. I find that there are more people who are chronically overworking their abdominals and can't switch them off, which causes them back pain. So because their Pilates teachers and their yoga teachers and their physios over the years have told them that a strong core protects your lower back, and I say it like this because it's a really damaging statement, it means that people are always gripping with their abdominals. And when we train that constant gripping of the abdominals, that causes movement problems. Your abdominals are not designed to grip all the time. Your abdominals are designed to switch on when appropriate and switch off when appropriate, just like any muscle in the body. So, funnily enough, I actually think there are more people that have too much abdominal tension that causes lower back pain, because the abdominals get so tense and they compensate and work too hard that they do things like tuck the pelvis under, which switches off the hips and the glutes. So the structure of the body no longer has the support in the way that it's designed, and we've just got a mesh of tension in the mid body because the person's been told that this is a helpful thing for them to do. And funnily enough, that can cause lower back pain. So to answer the question, abdominal weakness could be linked to back pain, but foot weakness could be linked to back pain. Quad weakness, hip flexor weakness, glute weakness, shoulder weakness, bicep, tricep weakness, all of these things could be linked to back pain. The area of the body that hurts, the symptom, in this case the back pain, is not the helpful information. What we would need to investigate for this person in this question is, does switching on your abdominals make your back pain feel somewhat better? Because if it does, that would be a sign that your back pain is, at least in part, caused by weak abdominals. But for lots of people, the more that they work their abs, actually the worse their lower back pain gets, because the chronic tension in their abs is one of the primary causes of the lower back pain. Last question. Someone said, you know that achy lower back that you get post-workout, ? Would posture work prevent that? 2 questions there. Number 1, I don't know the achy lower back sensation post-workout. I'm sorry, don't hate me. I practice what I preach. I move as well as I can. I really prioritize my posture. I don't get a achy lower back. I don't have any pain in my body. When I exercise, I feel better afterwards. My body feels more mobile, it feels looser, it feels energized. I don't feel tight. I don't feel like I need a massage. I don't feel like I need to stretch. I don't feel like I need to foam roll. So I'm afraid I don't know that achy lower back sensation post-workout, because I do all that I can to not have things like that. And to answer the second question, yes, of course, posture work would prevent that. So basically what I've just said, because I do my posture work, I still do lots of high intensity exercise as well. But because I do my posture work and have done religiously now for so long, I don't have to worry about stuff like that. What I will say is that commonly, and again, hopefully you're getting the gist from the rest of the video, that it's really quite difficult to say like why you have back pain without assessing your body and knowing how it moves through one of my programs or something. But what I would say is that like one of the most common causes of an achy lower back when people are working out is that the lower back is hyperextending. So compensating, working too hard, it's overly extending because the body doesn't have the support from the pelvis, the hips and the glutes. So if the body isn't achieving hip extension, which is this movement, if you're not able to extend your hip, which is this movement here, as you're like running and going to the gym, what you might do instead is flare your rib cage upwards like that. So if these guys don't wake up properly to pull that leg backwards behind you, what you might do to compensate is flare your rib cage up, which puts too much load in the lower back. So yeah, one of the most common causes of lower back pain that I see is hips that can't extend, that don't have the support of the pelvis, and the lower back hyperextends as well. That's the end of the questions that I have. If you want me to do another one of these types of videos, please let me know. The way in which you could ask me questions would be through my Instagram. So please do follow me on YouTube, but follow me on Instagram too, @PostureEllie, and let me know what area of the body or topic you would like me to talk about next. I really hope that helped. And I hope to see some of you soon, either in the Posture Revolution, which is my deep dive course that takes place over 4 months, or if you're not suffering from pain, but you just want to learn to move better and you want to have like a bank of classes to constantly come back to, my membership program, which is the Posture Squad. Have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed.